That's just a search, right? Oh, never mind, it's not. He has a zombie world on the field. Although he might just add it to hand instead, but that's fine. We don't mind him doing that. Could have actually done this to it. Now I think about it, I kind of just want to do this. Yeah, I changed my mind, never mind. Who cares? Wait, doesn't negate my own maxi? Oh, it doesn't negate my own maxi? I'm into. Oh my god, I'm negating my own maxi, didn't I? Oh my god, I'm. Alright, that's how Yu-Gi-Oh works, Harry. So just the other day, I uploaded a Paleozoic frog video, and I referred to it as the Fun Police, due to its pretty cancerous back row playstyle that would just eliminate fun. Boy, was I not prepared for the next deck I decided to give a try if I thought that was cancerous. So after spending all my currency investing into Hero and Paleo, I was running pretty low on those tasty gems, and since I've already finished the Battle Pass, my gem income is pretty stagnant. So either I whale out, or my next upload was going to have to be a free-to-play build. So I went looking at some old IRL tournament topping lists for some ideas, and that's when I came across this archetype. True Draco. Now before I get into the deck list, just a reminder that if you're enjoying any of the content you are watching, or find any of the content useful, to please drop a like on the video down below and consider subscribing to the channel whilst you're down there. I'll be making a buttload of content on Master Duel on this channel from now on, including free-to-play builds, meta stuff, memes, guides, basically everything, so if you're interested in any of that stuff, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out. Alright, so fair warning, this is definitely not the best variant of True Draco you could play, nor is it necessarily the best deck in the game. This build was made with the price being its main priority, so I've done some budgeting to make this list as cheap as I can while still keeping it competitive. The goal of this deck can basically be summarised into one word. Floodgate. True Draco are a bunch of monsters that may tribute summon themselves using continuous spells and traps as material, all with their own search effects to search monsters, spells or traps that you can activate whenever your opponent activates a card or effect. Now this archetype functions extremely well with very little monsters and very little summoning required, which means a large majority of the Floodgate cards that exist in this game don't really affect this deck at all, which means we can run a buttload of them. Cards like Skill Drain to negate effects, and Summon Limit to, well, limit summons. Also, due to this deck being a tribute deck, we can also run Monarch cards, more specifically, the Monarchs Erupt, which basically just negates all of your opponent's monsters, but you have to have a tribute summon monster on board, and no extra deck to use it. The rest of the list is basically just a bunch of draw power, including triple card Demise, which synergizes extremely well with this deck. As you run so little monsters, you can basically just set your entire hand, so this card on average will just draw 3 cards. Now I'd be lying to you if I said this deck didn't come with a really big major flaw, and that is its inability to really go second. It can win going second, but that's generally more dependent on your opponent having a bad, rough starting hand, as the goal of this deck is to stop your opponent playing the game. If he's already played it and comboed off, you're probably pretty screwed. That being said, when the deck does go first, its win rate is pretty damn nutty, as if your opponent doesn't have a Lightning Storm or a Feather Duster in hand, there is just no chance they are playing through all these floodgates, and hand traps basically have no effect on disrupting this deck. Thankfully in Master Duel, mathematically, you will be going first with this deck more times than you'll be going second, as if you win the coin toss, you will always pick first, and if your opponent wins the coin toss, there's a chance he'll just pick second. Which basically means running a deck with a game plan that revolves entirely around going first, or entirely around going second, is actually a viable climbing strategy. Alright guys, that's going to do it for the decklist portion of the video. The rest of the video will be gameplay with commentary showcasing the list in action. Remember, if you are enjoying the video or finding any of the content useful, to please drop a like down below and consider subscribing to the channel whilst you're down there. Enjoy the gameplay. Alright, let's get into it. First replay. I actually have no memory of what happened in these replays or who they were against, as I think I recorded these last night, so hopefully I'll get a bit more of a reminder as the game starts. Alright, so we got an insane starting hand. So generally we only want to start with one monster, as you just generally only need one monster, and it means that if you draw into your draw card, you can draw 3. So, acting our field spell, or our field searcher to go field spell. Our field spell is completely nuts, by the way. This card allows us to destroy cards in hand or on board to search for basically any of the true Draco archetype, so it's pretty nuts. Part of Duality, look at the top 3, grab 1 card from there. Like I said, because we only drew 1 monster, card Demise is absolutely mental. If you had 2 monsters in this hand, you could attribute summon to one, then use this continuous spell to tribute summon another, as that's one of the effects of the spell cards. Could be setting our board, tribute summoning over the spell so we can summon a monster, and drawing 3 cards. Absolutely nuts set. We've got 1 lot of negate, so we negate all monsters he's going to summon, and we have summon limit, which makes him only be able to summon 2 monsters a turn. Now we're not going to activate them straight away, as we want our opponent to commit to stuff, then activate them, so he wastes his resources. Or puts his like weak monsters in the firing line. So he's going to summon his tour guide, we're going to negate that, but we're not going to activate the summon limit just yet. We're going to wait till he tries to summon a second monster. Then we're going to activate it. Because this means he's going to have 2 monsters on board, he's already used his summon limit, so he can't actually exceed summon. Alright, come on now. Slow ass animations. Alright, he sets 1 and passes. Very weak turn, but he literally can't do anything. That's the entire point of this deck, is to make your opponent not be able to play the game. Alright, by Duality, going to be searching for a card, adding one of the other monsters to hand. So this monster here, this Dinomight Knight, he can search for trap cards whenever your opponent activates an effect, and this card can search for monsters whenever your opponent activates an effect. Instead, we decided to destroy it to add the continuous spell to hand, because we actually have True King's Return on board already, and True King's Return allows us to add some of the Dracos from grave back to the board. Unfortunately, our opponent decides to banish it before we can, although I think I could have changed to that, but instead I chose this guy instead, so I can search for a trap card. Now, these guys not only let you search for the trap cards or search for the spells if you've got the spell searcher on board, but it also lets you activate it immediately. So keep that in mind during your opponent's turn. I could just activate this trap card immediately. I'm going to be activating my True Draco Apocalypse. This lets me destroy one of my True Draco cards on board to then reduce my opponent's attack by a bunch. But in this case, I used it to destroy the other trap card, and the trap cards, when they're destroyed, can destroy 1 monster on the field. This guy can draw cards based on how many True Dracos I've destroyed this turn. Or True Draco, or yeah, just True Draco cards. Dude, he's just doomed from here. He's just completely floodgated, he just can't play the game. We can tribute summon our guy using the thing on board, destroy his monster. Then we have no cards in hand, draw 3 card of Demise. Absolutely disgusting. Draw 4 with this card, get a search with our Draco Diagram. Oh my god, it never ends. Oh yeah, so just like the trap cards, when the trap cards are destroyed, they destroy monsters. When the spell cards are destroyed, they destroy back row. I bait my opponent to summoning more monsters here by pretending to attack, even though I've activated a card of Demise this turn, so I don't actually do any damage. Easiest bait of my life. Not that it matters really, I don't think he can summon anything here anyway. His game was over from turn 1. Alright, game 2. Yeah, so this deck is rather disgusting. I know a lot of people will see this video and not like this playstyle at all, but yeah, that's just how it works. On the downside, on the bright side though, at least if you come across this deck and you win the coin toss, just make sure you're going first. Because like I said at the start of the video during the commentary part, or the decklist part, this deck is horrendous going second. Like really, really bad. Alright, we'll be setting a bunch of cards. We have 2 Solemns. We have Imperial Order, which is... I don't understand how this card was ever printed. Basically just negates any kind of spell effects. Waiting for our opponent to commit to stuff, then we activate our skill drain. And we didn't draw a monster this time, so I think I include this replay, because this replay was one of the... Yeah, this came right down to the wire, I think. He can't do anything, but I also can't do anything. To be fair, if he tried to Exceed Summon there or something, we could have also activated Solemns, so... We were pretty safe, but... We really need to draw a monster now, which luckily we did. Activate our Heritage so we can remove it. Summon the Ignis, and hit our opponent for a bit. Our opponent's still going to struggle to be able to do anything. So I think here he tries to summon a bunch of monsters to do a bunch of stuff. I don't care about any of it. The only thing I care about is him summoning a monster that can beat over 2400. Because all these effects are negated. So we just need to keep our monster alive. So he summons this thing. I don't know what it does. Don't think I even bothered reading it. I was just waiting, looking at their attack values. As soon as he summons something even remotely close to beating over this thing, that's when we activate one of the Solemns. Summons a Coral Dragon, something you Duel Links players are very familiar with. And we just, yeah, Solemn it. Draw a Diagram, which is probably the best card in our deck. Probably why it's limited to 1. We decide not to destroy anything though, as we kind of like all the cards we got on board. Better summons his Adamantipator, what the hell this is. Tries to use a spell card, and that's when we activate our continuous spell, Imperial Order. So during each standby phase, we pay 700 life points, and for that measly cost, all spells are negated, which includes our field spell too. But I love how that this deck uses skill drain to negate monsters, and Imperial Order to negate spells, and it just doesn't care that its owners are negated. It just doesn't care. You can negate your own stuff. Who needs it? We just have the little beaters on board and that's enough, apparently. Summons out Leonite. Has enough attack to beat over my guy, so I'm like, nope. Get Solemned. Raise my Imperial Order, pay $700. Getting pretty damn low now. But thankfully this is a pay cost, and it'll just kind of blow itself up if it goes too much. So next standby phase, it blows itself up. But at this point, it's done enough damage, so... We even drew a summon limit. Oh, which we decided to stray for a monster instead. I think, if I remember correctly, my opponent decides to commit Honourable Seppuku. Alright. Final game, and this one I believe was very quick. Against some poor Plat 2 man. I think this is the Pendulum game? Which might not have been. Pretty nuts starting hand. Unfortunately, because I didn't want to tribute off my Monarchs Erupt, I decided to keep this in hand, so our card Demise is only going to draw 2. Only draw 2, it's literally a pot of greed. Our opponent activates a draw on Lockbird. We literally don't care. Like I said, like in the Decklist portion of the video, we don't care about hand traps at all. Draw on Lockbird, it can be kind of annoying. It stops us activating like our Disciple spells that draw cards, I guess. It's kind of like more of the annoying of the hand traps. We don't care at all about things like, I know DD Crow, that's useless. They can activate Ash Blossom. Cool, I don't even know what they can activate Ash Blossom on, really. They can activate Ash Blossom on our monsters, but we don't use their effects on turn 1, so there's nothing to Ash Blossom. There's no Nibiruing, because we don't summon a billion monsters. Our opponent can't Maxius, we don't special summon. Like, this deck just doesn't care about hand traps, so there's all dead cards in our opponent's deck. It's absolutely insane. Not to mention, if your opponent activates a hand trap or something, it then does trigger your monster effect. So for example, he activated his Drollbird, my Ignis Heat goes off to search for a spell card, and activate it immediately. Alright, so like I said earlier, we're going to be not using our monster's effect until our opponent commits. So as soon as the opponent starts doing stuff, that's when we do it. Obviously we activate an effect, so we can then chain Maiden to try and draw a card. Unfortunately, he then negated it with his Forbidden Droplet, but then we can change the Forbidden Droplet to get a search of at least a spell. And I've come across this deck a few times now, so I'm pretty sure this is actually the best deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! I think. I've been watching a few tournament games, and I'm pretty sure this is tier 1, I think. So I'm pretty wary of what this deck can do at the moment. So I know that he summons this dude, and this dude likes to banish a bunch of stuff from grave. So rather than activating it immediately, I'm going to wait for my opponent to use its resources to try to activate it, banish the bunch of cards, and then negate the effect. Making sure that he pays the cost before I activate the card. And instantly, he was having none of that and he just left the game. Alright guys, that's going to do it for today's replays. I hope you guys enjoyed them. If you did, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And I hope to see you in the next one. Laters.
Hey, big brother, can I watch SpongeBob?
Shut up, Mokuba. I'm busy flagging YouTube videos to compensate for the fact that I have an extremely small penis.
Oh.